Good evening. Welcome to this evening's City Council meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, please be with us now as we meet together. Inspire us in our thoughts and our deliberations. Allow our decisions to be wise and practical. With your help, we will achieve success. Prior to the end of the prayer, please keep our city clerk, Stephanie Carlisle, in your thoughts and prayers as her two older children lost their father, and she is not attending today as a result of it. Please keep them in your thoughts and prayers as well. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Wink.
Present.
Councilmember Olson. Here. Councilmember Martinez.
Present.
Councilmember Cuesta.
Present.
Councilmember Barentine.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Present.
All council members are present.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 5, consideration of minutes of the previous session. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting from April 16th, 2018.
I move to approve minutes from April 16.
Councilmember Wink moved and Councilmember Olson seconded. Is there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 6 ayes.
Moving on to agenda item 6, recognition of scheduled public comment. Our first item on the agenda this evening, Toni Arnoldy, Englewood Police Community Relations Specialist, is here to present certificates to the 2018 Citizens Police Academy graduates.
I think once you guys get your certificates, just kind of line up behind us. This is what we'll do. Toni is gonna, every year we kind of mess this up, but I promise you we're not gonna mess it up. So I will receive you folks over here after Toni gives your names and whatnot, and then you'll just kind of circle around them and congratulate
So before you guys receive these, I want to let you know, especially I know there's some alumni in the audience, so you'll see these are a little different than in the past. In the past, they've gotten a nice certificate and a nice folder. But this year's class has Brian Hart from Frame to Art in their class, and he would have none of that. So all of your certificates are professionally and beautifully framed, and thank you, Brian, for that. They are beautiful. So.
And one last thing, I told you I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I don't want to miss this opportunity, but Toni has been with me and the previous chief for a while now, and without her, none of this would happen. I don't take credit for anything that she does, and I just want to congratulate her.
All right, Mr. Carl Adams. Melissa Adams. Melissa.
Is Melissa Adams here?
Yeah. Dolores Aguilar. Hedy Anselman. Taylor Bigant. Jordan couldn't be here tonight, but Jordan Britt would have been the next one. Judy Brown. Nancy Byers. Carol Curtis. Britt Fuchs. Aurelio Gazzotti. Brian Hart. Irene Jackson. TJ Naputi. Stephen Powers. Bernadette Soleil. Jean Walton. Stephen Walton. Debbie Ward. Steve Ward. Cheryl Wink. Caitlin Yarian.
sure how we'll manage this in the future. You can see that this was troublesome. But within a year, there'll be a new police building with your community room. And so I want you to know that we'll open that place up and we'll do it right for future events.
Class of 2018.
There is one last thing. Brian, you have a presentation.
It's against the rules to make me cry. How cool is that? Okay.
All right, everybody squeeze in a bit.
First picture for your new office.
I know, it's awesome.
May end up on the city's Instagram, just a heads up. All right, ready? A little bit in on the left over there. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Someone that does them on my news, right? Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll put it out. I'll email it.
Brian, give it a minute.
That is really cool.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Toni.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for participating in the Police Academy. Congratulations.
This Ina May's back there trying to get the last of her. Come to the...
Where's she? Oh, I see her.
Yes. Ken. Our first scheduled public speaker is Elaine Hults, who is not here this evening. So we'll move on to our second scheduled public speaker, Kathleen Bailey, an Englewood resident, is here to address council regarding a response.
Mayor, point of order. We've had somebody leave the dais. You at least have to acknowledge that.
I apologize. Actually, Councilmember Wink had asked permission to have her picture taken out in the foyer out there. And as soon as the picture is taken, she will return. Is there any discussion on council about that?
Should we wait a few minutes and let her return before somebody speaks?
Okay. We will wait a few minutes until she returns. Okay, we'll call this meeting back to order. And our first public speaker will be Kathleen Bailey, an Englewood resident, will address council regarding a response to the announced recall election. Good evening.
Good evening. Kathleen Bailey, District 4. Malfeasance, obstructionist, obstruct. Just some of the words former Councilmember Jim Woodward used to publicly disparage City Councilmember Lorette Barentine before announcing the petition for a recall election, accusing her of malfeasance, defined as commission of wrongdoing, misconduct, unlawful acts by a public official. So just where was Woodward's outcry of malfeasance when Englewood's own utility directors and city managers chose to disregard Englewood's legally binding agreement with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment and began illegally stockpiling radioactive sludge and leaving it uncovered right next to the main driveway and parking lot at the water filtration plant? No outcry of malfeasance from Woodward and others. Our utility directors and city managers continued to disregard state law from 2012 until they were caught and issued a compliance advisory by the City PHE in 2016. Still no outcry of malfeasance from Woodward and others. Englewood authorities then closed ranks to protect those who were responsible while providing misleading information to the public, including the 4116 Keck Brennan talking point sent to all City Council members, in which Keck questions the judgment of the City PHE for requiring hazardous disposal of Englewood sludge, declares our sludge just dirt, no more carcinogenic than radiation in brick homes, and declares that the employee with the workman's comp claim has the wrong kind of cancer. Quote, the types of cancer that would manifest themselves from prolonged exposure to high levels of radiation would be lung and bladder cancer, not the type of cancer he is suffering from, unquote. The 3 Allen water filtration employees who died had lung and bladder cancer. Still no outcry of malfeasance from Woodward and others. And to date, Englewood has not held Fonda, Sayers, Brennan, or Keck accountable in any way, shape, or form for their actual intentional, illegal, unsafe, and immoral mishandling of radioactive sludge. And still, no outcry of malfeasance from Woodward and others until last City Council meeting, when Woodward, along with other former council members, including Yates and Toe, stepped up to the microphone and publicly disparaged Councilmember Lorette Barentine, accused her of malfeasance, and called for her recall. Lorette Barentine is the first City Council member I have ever experienced in Englewood who actually acts like a watchdog rather than the standard just smile, say yes, and defer all sorts of knowledge, direction, and oversight over to our city managers and department directors, which directly allowed the Allen Water Filtration Plant negligence. Our city managers and directors have demonstrated by their own actual malfeasant actions that they require Barentine's level of scrutiny. So what Jim Woodward has just done raises all kinds of red flags and alarms for me as to just what else have individuals in positions of power and authority in Englewood done that makes Lorette Barentine's relentless scrutiny such a threat. Member Barentine has but one vote. She cannot obstruct anything, as was falsely declared by Jim Woodward. And calling Barentine's aggressive vocal opposition on the dais malfeasance and obstructionist, because all of you consider it suffering and delay to have to regularly listen to strong opposing opinion or request for more information or request for further dialogue in future study sessions, is beyond pathetic. Member Barentine can aggravate even me with her scrutiny of absolutely everything and her tendency to go on past her initial, generally well-researched statements of concern. But as a concerned citizen, I will gladly tolerate those imperfections in light of the actual egregious malfeasance that was committed by Englewood authorities at the Allen Water Filtration Plant. I am grateful that a city council member, Lorette Barentine, actually scrutinizes city management and department heads, not only for their use or misuse of taxpayers' money, but she scrutinizes management and department heads for their use or misuse of their positions of power and authority. I strongly protest this latest political power play by Woodward and other previous council members who silently ignored actual malfeasance committed by Englewood authorities and instead want to get rid of Englewood's first watchdog council member, Lorette Barentine, by initiating a politically motivated recall election at significant disruption and significant expense to all Englewood citizens. District 3 citizens were fully aware of Barentine's aggressive investigative style when they voted her in, and they have every right to expect to be able to assess her work at the end of her full term, just as what was afforded Woodward's friends, Yates and Gillett, who were voted out by the citizens at the end of their full terms.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Bailey? Seeing none, thank you. Our next scheduled speaker is Matt Millen, an Englewood resident. He will address council regarding ransomware attacks. I do not believe he is here this evening. Our next public speaker is May Nicholl, an Englewood resident, will address council regarding the Englewood Military Memorial. Good evening, May.
Good evening, council, and our city manager, and our attorney, and our Mayor Pro Tem, Rita Russell. My name is May Nicholl, and I live at 4740 South Penn Street. And I've been here numerous times about the memorial, but there's always different people here. So we go kind of over the same subject, although I've changed it just a small amount. The Englewood Historic Preservation Society presents the historic Englewood High School Military Memorial Celebration on Sunday, May 27th, 2018 at 2 o'clock p.m. Location 3800 South Logan Street, Englewood High School, Fisher Auditorium. And there are pamphlets on the back, brochures, so please pick up one when you go out. If anyone would like to make a donation toward the celebration, I have information in the back as well. Anything you'd like to donate, we would certainly appreciate. Our small city of Englewood has many unique businesses and organizations, along with our historic, beautiful Swedish Medical Center and Craig Rehabilitation Hospital, both noted worldwide. All the innovative, advanced techniques distinguished by a number of defining strengths that make them the right choices for numerous patients around the world. We add to that the Veterans Memorial at the Englewood High School. We express our thanks and gratitude to K. Howard Englewood class of 1959, founder of the Englewood High School Military Monument. We take great pride in our historic monument, which is a 3-ton Colorado Rose granite stone embedded with bronze military emblems representing each branch of the military. Accompanying that monument is a display of pavers honoring our veterans, businesses, organizations, and families. What many people do not realize that high schools across the United States do not honor or allow the military into their schools to recruit or to say Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. After the military memorial was installed, the Englewood High School principal, Mr. West, put a flag in every room, and the students say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. The Englewood High School was awarded the Proud to be an American Award by founder Bill Baldini, I can't pronounce that, of the Military Memorial at Ken Carl, Colorado. The Englewood Military Memorial is one of our city's legacies. We understand that the world we leave behind is the world our children and grandchildren inherit. Through legacy, we encompass past and future, old and young, and the society we create becomes a partnership, a community that must remember its history to build a future for the betterment of us all and for future generations. The Englewood Historic Preservation Society is trying to do our part in this little city called Englewood to keep our rich history alive and teach our young students that patriotism is to be respected, loved, and honored. With this beautiful honoring monument and memorial at Englewood High School, this is truly a community event and city history in the making. This is a free event and open to all the public. However, there is a cost to this beautiful celebration. Every sponsor is very much appreciated, and we are grateful for your contribution. If you do not want to to be a showcase sponsor, which I have back there, but you would like to make a donation in any increment, that would be appreciated. What better way can our mission be accomplished than by assuring that this patriotic event for our veterans continue? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Nicholl? I actually have one. This has become an annual event, correct? How many?
Yes, this is our 4th year. We celebrated the Second World War the first year, the Korean War the second year, Vietnam last year, and this year we will be honoring the Gulf War. Our main speaker tonight is a Gulf War colonel that will be coming from New York. He actually put $20,000 into that beautiful stone. We can't find any other high school across the United States that has a military stone as we have. There are a lot of schools that do presentation, but I'm sure there's some somewhere, but we haven't found one. and also with the pavers that go around honoring that stone. And this is our city's legacy, and we think all of our businesses, our city, and our citizens should all gather together and keep this so we don't lose it. So are there any other questions?
Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rita.
Our final public speaker this evening is Doug Cohn, an Englewood resident. He will address council regarding historic preservation. Good evening, Mr. Cohn.
Good evening, everybody. I have three things I want to talk to you about. The first one, Carl Adams, thank you for encouraging us to get a larger room for our history talk last Monday. And Eric, thank you, and Julie Bailey. Carl was worried that there was not going to be enough space in the library. He was right. So the details were worked out for us to have the talk in the community room. And the talk was about the Alexander Aircraft and Film Company and the disastrous fire. David Gilbert did a great job in his presentation. You can find it on YouTube if you want to have a look. I have not worked on the Memorial Day project until this year. As I've been doing it, it brought back some memories of my classmates who died in Vietnam. Ed Penn, Randy Penn's brother, and Jerry Potter were on the football team with me. We were pretty good buds in that class. Brother-in-law, Paul Henson, died of Agent Orange in 1970. This will be a real special year of remembrance for me. And now I have a hypothetical question for you. The Englewood Historic Preservation Society really wants an Englewood museum. There's a benefactor considering funding the building of a museum. My question, would you consider having a museum here in City Hall? I'm guessing the museum would take about 3,000 square feet. That would be the display space, office space, and storage. He and we would pay to finish the spot and pay the city rent for the space. I don't know if there's a spot behind a wall someplace that could be developed. I really haven't looked at that possibility at all. Is that something you guys would even consider? The benefactor is looking for ways to give back to Englewood and thinks a museum might be one of those. It's not a done deal by any means, but he's considering it. And we're looking at other locations. I drove around with you on Saturday, and we looked around at other places around town. And this is not an offer, but just an inquiry about a possibility. And then for any of you guys who have connections at Cherry Lynn Elementary School, on Friday, May 18th, they're going to have Aloha Cherry Lynn. That'll be the next school that'll be replaced with a new building. But they're inviting all the old Cherry Lynn kids to come back and walk the halls, and the Historic Society will be there with old pictures. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Cohn? Seeing none, thank you very much. And we are moving on to unscheduled public comment. There are no speakers this evening, so we will move forward with response to public comment. Who would like to begin? Councilmember Barentine.
Kathleen, I appreciate Kathleen Bailey. I appreciate your presentation and your doggedness in making sure that you followed up on the residual issues with the wastewater, with the water treatment plant. And I hope you take note tonight that we will be voting on the removal of the residuals as well. I hope that we take the time to make sure that that's, at least for public reasons and what's gone on for the last year and a half, that we at least take that out of the consent agenda to at least be put on publicly so that people know that we're voting on that tonight, more for public's sake on that. Doug, thank you, as usual, for your historical and reminder of the community's involvement and how near and dear Memorial Day is to this community as it is to this whole country. So greatly appreciate that. And item A as well, thank you. I noticed that you did not miss an opportunity to get all of our new Citizen Academy people and made sure that you got each one of them before they were leaving the door to make sure that they came to the event as well. So thank you very much for all of you coming, and our new graduates. Greatly appreciate your involvement in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more response to public comment? I actually would like to respond to public comment. Thank you, Kathleen, for coming and supporting our council member and for remembering all of the things that have gone on in the past. Item A, I also want to thank you. I just always am encouraged by this military memorial. And it truly is an honor for our veterans and those who have served this country well. And I thank you that the Englewood Historic Preservation Society stepped up to the plate to carry it forward. And hopefully we can get help to continue moving it forward. Doug, I also want to thank you for coming. And I always love learning about the history of the city. And as a matter of fact, I am one of the graduates from Cherlin Elementary School, and I hope that I will be able to be there. So thank you for all of those, and I have marked this down to consider the fact that there is a benefactor and that perhaps we can discuss that. So we'll see where we go from here. Just want to thank you all for coming and coming up to address us. Are there any more responses? Councilmember Olson.
I wanted to also add a big thank you to Toni again and all of those who took the extra time. It took a lot of time to go through the police academy. If any of you have been through it, my husband has, and it's a big commitment. So thank you again for being very aware and engaged in our community and having more eyes and ears and understanding out there. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? If not, there are no communications, proclamations, or appointments, so we will move on to agenda item 9, consent agenda items. And I know that Councilmember Barentine asked that we remove this. If I just acknowledge each individual item, would that be sufficient, or do you want to actually make a motion? Oh, wait a second. I think we have to have the motion to approve all of the consent agenda items before we pull any. Is that correct? Okay.
I move
to approve the consent agenda items A1, C1, and C2. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Councilmember Barentine and seconded by Councilmember Martinez to approve the ordinances. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I would like to. I have some questions on 9C2 that I did discuss with the our CFO, Kathy Wrinkle, before the meeting. It's just a couple of questions. And for the public record, because this has been such a contentious issue, I would like some public announcement presentation on at least giving the information on the alum plant, alum residuals removal and disposal, so that we have that on the record rather than just doing it through a consent agenda item.
So are you asking that we remove them?
I would like to pull those two, yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Councilmember Barentine moved and Councilmember Martinez seconded to remove consent agenda items C1 and C2.
I don't actually think we vote on removing the
all right, I'm sorry.
Consent agenda items, but we can go ahead and vote on the others if there isn't anything else anybody wants to pull, I guess.
Okay, all right. Councilmember Wink.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I have one question. Is there no way to have this be public? Item number 9A1, given we're here now and the materials were made public as they always happen. I think my question is, why is this not public right now, since it was posted last Thursday online for all of our citizens to see and understand?
I believe the
You
answer
understand what I'm
to
saying?
that, yes, I believe the answer to that question is it is public information, but generally on consent agenda items, we do not discuss these or even read them. We just name them by A1, B, C1, and 2. So it is just giving recognition for that. So we will pull consent agenda items C1 and C2. And so let's vote on A1, Denver Water, IGA with Englewood.
I move to approve 9A1.
Is there a second?
Second. We already did.
Thank you. We don't have to do that again?
No, we just.
Okay. All right. Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 6 ayes.
Thank you. Now taking these items separately, consent agenda item 9C1, the alum plant alum residuals removal and disposal. Staff recommends council approve by motion a contract with Norm Services LLC in the amount of $149,312 for residuals removal and disposal at the Allen Water Filtration Plant. Staff Director of Utilities is Tom Brennan. Good evening, Mr. Brennan.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm before you this evening to recommend council approve a motion of a contract with Norm Services in the amount of $149,312 for the removal, hauling, and disposal of 800 cubic yards of residuals. This 800 yards is the total produced in 2017. Do you have any questions at this time?
Councilmember Berentine.
I greatly appreciate you taking the time to go ahead and provide that information. I wanted it read into the record. This has been an issue for this community for several years, and for them to know that we are taking steps, that we are not holding anything on the property, that we're making that public is extremely important. And it is, whether it was in the packet or not, a privilege, and I appreciate the mayor doing that for me to go ahead and make sure that it's read into the record and that it's public. And I greatly appreciate the work that you're doing to make this happen, and acknowledgement of the timeliness of it and the cost. Thank you very much for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Right off the bat, I was struck by how close the bids came in, $149,000 bids within $40 of each other, which is unique to at least the ones that I've been through so far. This project initially had $250,000 set aside for it. That's what was put aside in the budget. And then the final lowest bid came in at $149,000. How was it off the mark, $100,000?
It's based on production, and we don't know how much we're going to produce in any given year. 800 is on the low side of our production. We usually produce around 1,000 yards. We had mechanical difficulties this past summer, the summer of 17, so that the production was off. That's why it's only 800 yards. This year we started a month early. So the weather let us start a month early, so we started April 1st processing for 18. So we should be back on track.
Very good, thank you. Would it be possible for it to swing the other direction then? In this particular case, we were $100,000 under the budget. Could it go the other way? Not necessarily $100,000, but significantly over what we've allotted?
I do not believe so. That represents 1,000 yards, and we're conservatively estimating $250 a cubic yard, and it's consistently come in below that.
Thank you, Mr. Brendan. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Any more? Councilmember Berentine?
I did want you to let everyone know that the diversion of the pipe, and that we're expecting that the readings will be low enough to allow us, I believe, in a certain period of time to go to a lower level facility as the radiation of levels of it, the testing levels of it go down. And if you could just speak to that really quickly. I heard you speak to it at the Water and Sewer Board, sorry. If you could just quickly make that statement so that everybody knows what's going on in the work you're doing.
Certainly. Yes, as you remember, you approved the Big Dry Creek diversion. That's twofold. It's Big Dry Creek is the source of our hardness, our water hardness, which has always been an issue. Big Dry Creek, the water hardness is about 3 times Big Dry as it is the main channel of the South Platte. Additionally, that is the source of our radioactive material. It goes through natural formation in the area of County Line landfill. By diverting the low flows around, the levels will eventually go down. But since it's going into a process reservoir, it'll take some time because what we produce in what we put in there in any given year, we don't necessarily pull that same out that year. But yes, that is the intent of it, because the Platte River's levels are significantly less.
So you expect that the cost will go down significantly when the radioactive levels go down to that? We can put it into a facility that's going to be less expensive?
Yes, as we did prior to 2012.
And what was the time frame that you thought that would happen?
I can't venture against on that. Saying that that's a fairly large reservoir. It's a 30 million gallon reservoir, and it just depends how much we produce in any given year, and the dilution of putting the new stuff in.
Is 3 to 5 years the minimum of what it would take to start seeing that difference, or?
3 to 5 years is probably a good estimate.
All right. Thank you very much.
Are there any further questions? I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve 9C1.
Second.
Councilmember Olson moved, and Councilmember Martinez is seconded to approve 9C1. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 6 ayes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is 9C2, the purchase of a Jacobson AR-522 mower for the golf course. Staff recommends council approve by motion the purchase of a Jacobson AR-522 mower for the golf course from C&M Golf and Grounds Equipment using the National Joint Powers Alliance quote of $40,800. Our staff person is Fleet Manager Scott Edwards. Good evening.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. I'm here for the approval of purchasing a mower for the golf course.
Okay, are there any questions? Councilmember Berentine?
I'll just ask one, I just wanted to make sure that you knew that you were important enough to make sure that we asked you some questions, not waste your time here.
Thank you.
But the question that I had asked our CFO earlier was, we weren't anticipating, according to this, and if I have anything wrong, please correct me, but we weren't anticipating changing this over for another 2 years.
Correct.
So what I got from this is that we were, the wastewater treatment plant is taking this, and that the 14,000, 15,000, apparently, close, as the value of it, or it's just the depreciated cost that you would have. It would have been totally depreciated after the next 2 years, and that's just what's left on there, and that's what they were purchasing it for, or not, I guess transferring over for.
That's what's left for them to pay off the price of it. I buy it for them, they pay it back, so we're getting rid of it early.
So the 14.6 was actually what was left due on it.
Due on it, yep.
Not just its value. Okay.
Correct.
And then the other question that I had, so thanks for clearing that up. The other question I had was the salvage value of it, because it seemed as if we were adding the salvage value into it, but that's actually a transferable asset. I mean, it's not going to disappear. They'll still be able to do it. So I just wanted to make sure that the salvage value portion of it, that additional $5,000 or $6,000, depending on what the market would hold at the time that you did it, that's estimated, wasn't being offset on the amount that was owed. The 14.6 is actually what's owed, and you're not offsetting it with the salvage value.
No, the salvage value is what we expect when we sell a piece of equipment to auction after its life is complete.
Right.
They're going to keep it since they're paying it off. They want to keep it for years afterwards. So therefore, they pay that salvage value that we were expecting.
And they may still get some salvage value out of it. But the actual cost of what we had was the 14.6, not the 14.6 plus the salvage value.
Correct.
That's the only question I had. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve 9C2.
Move to approve 9C2.
I will second that.
Councilmember Olson moved, and Councilmember Barentine seconded.
Wink seconded.
It was Cheryl.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Wink seconded. Thank you. So is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
You did good on this. Thank you. Nice job.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 6 ayes.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 11A1, approval of ordinances on first reading. Staff recommends council approve a bill for an ordinance for an IGA with CDOT for the rehabilitation of the Dartmouth Avenue Bridge over the South Platte River. Our staff source is Engineering Manager Paul Weller. Good evening, Mr. Weller.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. Have a first reading of an ordinance tonight for an IGA with CDOT. It's a IGA to rehabilitate a 53-year bridge that's critical to Englewood residents, businesses, and surrounding communities. The total value of this contract with CDOT is $1,739,544, and that's made up of federal and state funds, which is 80% of that number, and city funds, which is 20% of that number. So I'll keep it simple and ask for any questions.
Are there any questions? I actually have one question, because in the previous council action it says on March 2nd, wait a second, we received a, actually February 3rd, we received an award from CML for $524,000. We actually received those funds, correct?
Yes.
And we also actually received then on December 18th of 2015, $867,544. And so that's $1,391,544 we already had in the which fund did that go into?
That went into the PIF fund.
The PIF fund?
Yes.
And so why are we moving forward on this right now rather than doing it earlier? I mean, because it says CDOT wasn't available?
We got a second award for the $800,000, and the money was put aside for 2019. The work we've done with the IGA with CDOT to date has us a little ahead of that schedule. So the FHWA funds have been appropriated for design, so we're ready to go as soon as we get a signed agreement.
Okay, so we didn't move forward before because it wasn't totally ready to go. We had this money.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, Mr. Weller. So the 80-20 split is great. This is a tremendous project, excuse me. Now, if it goes over that figure of the $1.7 million, $1,739,430, that cost is that goes to Englewood in 100%.
That's correct.
I'm sure it's tough to estimate now if we would exceed that. Do we allocate for if we go over that? Where would that money come from if we were to exceed that?
Currently in the PIF, there's $1.5 million. So if we look at this as really a $2 million project, which it likely could come out to be with design and construction, that would mean we would need, over the $1.7 million, we'd need about another $260,000. So we have that money in the PIF right now, and hopefully I can give some back.
So as of right now, you are anticipating it is up to $260K over?
My gut tells me it's about a $2 million project. So,
okay. Thanks, sir. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve 11A1.
I'll move to approve 11A1.
A second.
Councilmember Martinez moved, and Councilmember Barentine seconded. I apologize. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 6 ayes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weller. Moving on to agenda item 11C1, resolutions and motions. Award 2018 Concrete Ramp and Utility Program. Staff recommends that City Council award by motion a contract with Silva Construction Incorporated for $785,449.50 for construction of the concrete ramp and utility program for 2018, and an additional $78,544.95 contingency for unidentified work, for a total of $863,994.45. Interim Director of Public Works, Larry Nemo, is here to address council.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Just a little brief history on the concrete utility. This will actually be our 21st program this year, from the program's inception in 1997. To date, we've repaired over 956,000 square feet. With this year's 47,000 square feet, that'll put us over 1 million square feet that we've done this year, or over the almost 21 years that we've been doing it, which is we have a total square footage of about 7 million square feet in the city. So we're not doing too bad, even though it seems like we are getting at the end of life expectancy for a lot of this concrete. So we received 2 bids on March 15th. The low bid did exceed the engineer's estimate by about 30%. Feel like we probably had a small little contractor, that if we kept the job smaller, he was able to handle it. But once we kicked it into a little higher gear with adding the ramps, 44 ramps and some other work, he did not feel comfortable. So we kind of got back to a little bit more of a reality check. 2015, I believe it was, we had Nora Construction in, and they were probably really close to this price range. So we're kind of back to where we got lucky for a couple of years, but kind of got back to the market, as it were. As highlighted in the memo, we have gone back to adding the concrete ramp program, which we have not done in many, many years, which is the construction of new ramps where there are none. Our plan is to do 44 of them this year, in the hopes that someday the whole city has the ramp, so that no matter how you're traveling, you can get from sidewalk to sidewalk. Wheelchairs, blind, whatever it takes. So that's a little bit different this year too. And then though Silva has never worked in the city of Englewood, we did do an extensive check on him. As a matter of fact, I saw him out on, I was coming home one day and saw him out on Bowles out west, and they had quite an operation going. Their removal crew was up here, their form crew was back here, and their pour crew was there, and they had the whole just running right down the road. So one of my the staff inspector, the concrete utility project manager, actually met with his friends over in Jefferson County and went out and kind of over the site with them. So we did do a pretty extensive, but they are a top-notch organization from what everybody's telling us. So I'm kind of open to. One thing I will say is these two awards are kind of backwards. The reappropriation of funds probably should have happened before we went to the award because I need to reappropriate the money. But anyway, so I'm open to any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? I have one question. Where are you working? Do you work separate areas every year, or?
We basically break the city into 5 zones, and what the zones are based on is Broadway and 285 for the most part, because we don't want people working across those roads with the equipment and stuff. So Zone 1 is the northwest section and the southwest section of Englewood. It's kind of, those two are kind of off. Zone 2 is basically everything, or Zone 1 is there. Zone 5 is the southwest section of Englewood. Zone 2 is north of 285. Zone 3 is east of Broadway, and Zone 4 is west of Broadway.
Okay, and what are we doing this year?
We work, and it's
all
where
of
the
them?
concrete's bad. This is where we go do repair work.
All right, I was just curious of how you did that. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve 11C1.
Move to approve 11C1.
I will second that motion.
Councilmember Olson moved and Councilmember Wink seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 6 ayes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nemo. Our next agenda item is 11C2, resolution for 2018 budget supplemental appropriation for the concrete utility fund. Staff recommends that City Council approve a resolution for a reappropriation of funds, $190,734 from the concrete utility fund to facilitate the completion of the 2018 concrete utility program. And Mr. Nemo is still here, so we'll just let you go on with this. Thank you.
Basically, this is just a transfer. Years ago, this was just handled, but with the way new transparencies and stuff, we want to make sure you know about it. What we need to do is one thing I need to highlight, though, the budget sheet that you see that was attached to this, in case there's any questions, that's what we produce and give to you, as we went through the budget season last summer and stuff. Kathy Winkler and I worked through this, and what we actually have based on the latest projections that we're working from is that at the end of the beginning of 2018, and you don't have these numbers, but I can get them for you if you need them, but at the end of 2017, the beginning balance, we had $975,180, and our projected revenue without this appropriation was $1,190,813. So I'm actually only pulling the fund down about $190,000. Over the last few years, we've run some smaller programs. We've saved some money on staff. I've had some vacancies, not filling them real quick. And I don't like to I finally got a good staff rebuilt back up again, as now we can get into these bigger programs the way we used to. But when you've got new staff, you don't want to throw really big programs. You kind of want to take it and still get a lot of work done, but want to take it in a little smaller chunks. So this year was the year where I've got a good staff. I've got good team members. They're ready to go, and that's what we're doing. So, and of course, the bids did catch us a little bit off guard. They were about 30% up, but like I said, I think we just got a reality check on that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Councilmember Barentine.
Maybe Kathleen could answer this better, or maybe we could just leave it for the budget piece of it. But I'm confused about calling it a supplemental appropriation because I believe the money was already budgeted and appropriated. So it's kind of a misnomer in there that it's not. It doesn't seem to me as if it's additional money. It was already budgeted for, but that it's being transferred or put into its appropriate.
The budget, the amount in our actual budget line item is $525,000 for construction. It's supplementing that $525 where we're too low.
Right, but it's still out of the program that.
Still out of the.
It's out of the program that's intended to be spent for that. So I'm not sure that label is appropriate because usually I have a bit of a fit with any supplemental appropriations, but we're gonna give her a break, and we'll just explain that during the budgeting. But all of this money is coming out of the funds that are intended for this program and for this purpose.
Yes, ma'am.
And so there's no other money being pulled from
No, ma'am.
anywhere else. So just wanted to make that.
Like I said, the fund, the reserve's up a little bit more. We normally like to keep one solid year in there, so we're actually a little bit high right now. This one obviously is going to pull it down. I'll probably schedule another one of about the same size next year. So, but the difference will be in the budget when we go through the process. I'll actually raise my construction up this.
All right, maybe we could just get some better phrases for it, terminology. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Nicholl? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve 11C2.
Move to approve item 11C2.
Seconded.
Councilmember Wink moved to approve, and Councilmember Olson seconded 11C2. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 6 ayes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nemo.
Thank you.
Moving on to general discussion, Mayor's Choice this evening. I move that we will go into executive session for a conference with the city attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under Colorado Revised Statutes Section 24-6-402-4B, and also for discussion of a personnel matter under Colorado Revised Statutes Section 24-6-402-2F, and not involving any specific employees who have requested discussion of the matter in open session, any member of this body or any elected official, the appointment of any person to fill an office of this body or of an elected official, or personnel policies that do not require the discussion of matters personal to particular employees. Is there a second?
I'll move to go into executive session.
Okay, Councilmember Olson moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Martinez seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 5 ayes, 1 nay, being Councilmember Cuesta. 10 minutes and all heck broke out.
I'm not sure I have the correct announcement. Oh, I think I do. Announcement number 4? Okay. The time is now 8:54, and the executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were Council members Martinez, Olson, Wink, Barentine, and Cuesta, and Mayor Pro Tem Russell. Also in attendance were City Manager Keck and City Attorney Brown and Assistant City Manager Mark Wolf. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record.
I did object to the meeting. I believe that it got off into the behavior and policies of council member, and I objected at the time. I believe that the city attorney brought it back into line with the personnel issue and away from conversations about elected officials, which should be held in public per the law.
Thank you. So we just move to go into the meeting. So under general discussion, I actually attended the Arapahoe County.
Point of order, do we not have to officially come out of executive session?
Oh,
yes,
motion.
It's huge nodding down there.
For it, yes.
I move to come out of executive session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, moved by Councilmember Olson, seconded by Councilmember Barentine, that we come out of executive session. Please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 6 ayes.
Thank you for the reminder. Back to general discussion under Mayor's Choice. This last week, I attended the Arapahoe County Colorado Mayors and Commissioners Youth Award Program, and there were 17 Englewood students that were nominated for youth awards, and there were 7 individuals, 5 from Colorado's finest high school of choice, and the 2 from Englewood High School who received scholarships. And so I would just like to read their names from Colorado's finest high school of choice: Abby Hayward, Jade Barella, Dalton Center, Remy Trowernicht, Kara Sloper, and then from Englewood High School, Tristan Turnquist and Manuela Barisa all received scholarships. And I think this was a great day for Englewood, and I just would like to congratulate all of them. Council members' choice, who would like to start? Councilmember Barentine.
I wanted to thank the police department for the meeting they had at the high school about the 3800 block of Washington issue. I think that it went really well. It was very well attended. I know that it was just meant to go ahead and be for that community, but Channel 2 had it out, and so I know that they had to deal with a larger section of the community. I do appreciate the concrete and ramp utility program going on, as he well pointed out, wheelchairs, the blind, walkers, the elderly. That's important that we keep that going, and appreciate that Jerry Walker, the chair of the code enforcement, kept up about the trash cans on Sherman. They've since been removed, and I've gotten some nice comments from the neighbors and some businesses around there that they're very happy that that finally got taken care of, both for it being an eyesore, somewhat of a concern for sanitation and rodents, when you try and keep some control over that in the alley, and I appreciate that that was finally done. And then a point of personal privilege to go ahead and answer the recall piece that had surprised me 2 weeks ago. I will read the answer that will be provided on the petition for the vagueness of what's going on is kind of difficult to answer, but then there's not a shortage of people sometimes when they just disagree with you wanting to kind of ambush you or make things, issues out of things that really aren't there. So I'm very disappointed in this, but nonetheless, I'll read the answer. Our government holds regular elections so citizens can elect those who they think will best represent their interests and replace those who they do not think represent their interests. It is a shame that 4 people refuse to participate in the normal election cycle and instead are trying to force the expense of a recall election simply because I do not agree with their position on some issues. My vote against the city's annual budget is listed as action worthy of a recall. In contrast, I believe it is my job as your elected representative to make sure the city is spending your money wisely and to vote against budgets that waste your money. I will never compromise my role to be a rubber stamp for established interest. Assisting citizens in matters that are not being addressed or resolved by the city is not a violation of the charter. It is my obligation as your elected representative to help. It also appears that people pushing the recall are confused about the powers a council member has. Council members hire and fire the city manager and city attorney. The city manager hires and fires all other employees. The idea that any city council member could threaten to fire a city employee is impossible because council members do not have that authority. I am honored the citizens of District 3 elected me to represent them. I have and always will strive to represent your interests. Lorette Barentine, Englewood City Council Member, District 3. And that's my 200-word answer to the petition. I also want to acknowledge that my son was very medically involved on oxygen until he was 10, and we dealt with the medical community extensively for a lot of years. Earlier, I acknowledged Jan in the audience for her service as a nurse, and I want to thank all of the people who dedicate their lives to nursing. It is National Nurses Week, and this is only the second year that it's been National Nurses Week, and my son is not coming out of some kind of surgery or recovering from some issue, and I am so very grateful for the people who dedicate their lives to that service because they certainly made a huge difference in my life and my son. So congratulations for your service, Jan, and to all of the people who do nursing. Enjoy your week. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Cuesta, do you have anything?
No report. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Councilmember Wink?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Similar to your report, I, on May 1st, attended the Greater Englewood Chamber of Commerce Student Recognition Luncheon, so one day before the event you attended, Mayor Pro Tem. And during that luncheon, we recognized 8 students from Bishop, Charles Hay, Cherlin, Colorado's Finest, once again. And I heard some different names in here, so I'll go ahead and read these names just to further congratulate these students. And the award was really centered around these students going above and beyond the academic requirements or academic achievement. It was the way they influence and support their fellow students who might be struggling, the way they assist their instructors and other educators, just going a bit beyond, showing up early to school to help out. All sorts of wonderful stories were read at that luncheon. So the names were Nadia Mendez Vega, Arlene Schwegman, Diego Cisneros, Emilia Muhlenberg, Gianna Painter, Charlie Barker, Shelby Black, and Edwin Barroso. So congratulations once again to these fine students and the example they set. I did say a few words on behalf of council for how proud we were to be in this community with such fine young people. I think that's it for my report tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Martinez?
Yeah, I just want to remind folks again of the Cherry Lynn Elementary Aloha Farewell. I also attended Cherry Lynn, and I'm sure it looks pretty much the same as it did when I went there. So looking forward to that celebration and seeing the new building. That's it for me.
Thank you. You're probably not that far out from...
Well, it's not like I was just in fifth grade. But.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Olson.
Again, I wanted to acknowledge the folks that were here for the Police Academy. But I failed to say while they were here that Brian Hart and Frame to Art won the A-list again, I think for the third year in a row for the metropolitan area, which is a very, very big deal. So big congratulations to him. I also would like to ask that we put on our agenda at some point a discussion how we continue to work as a productive council. And that's it.
Thank you. Agenda item 13, City Manager's Report. 13A, Council Travel to Colorado Municipal League Conference.
Yes, Mayor, members of Council, you have two members of the Council that have expressed a desire to attend the Colorado Municipal League Conference this summer in June in Vail. And according to your current policy I-19, as well as some resolutions that have been adopted, Resolution 48 from 2014, Resolution 10 from 1992, and Resolution 49 from 1990, you're required to bring forth to the entire council the desire to travel and the associated cost 30 days prior to that travel occurring. At this point in time, I mentioned that there are two members that wish to attend CML in Vail in June, and that cost would be $2,372.18. There is an attached breakdown of the cost in your packet to view as well, and so at this point in time, this will allow the council to discuss that matter and take a formal vote to determine whether or not to expend that money.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from council? Councilmember Barentine?
I didn't see anything on the CML. I know I wasn't interested this year in going for the last 2 years. What two council members want to go?
Didn't enunciate that properly. Council members Wink and Olson have enunciated a desire to attend CML this year.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Olson?
There's a caveat to mine because as of today, I was supposed to hear whether or not I could actually go, and they've postponed. I applied for a grant to do a curriculum development thing, which would be the exact same week. So if I get that, then I would not be going. But I told Manager Keck that if I am not involved in that, I would like to go for a number of things. Particularly, there's some interesting sessions on historic preservation that I would like to attend, but I won't know until probably Wednesday whether I can go or not now.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Wink?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I expressed an interest to attend this conference as the Colorado Municipal League offers many resources in terms of support and learning and education on the topics that are relevant within our city. And I believe wholeheartedly that I can learn a lot from the sessions that I saw on this, on the proposed agenda for the conference. I think it will support my fulfilling my role as a council member tremendously, not just because I'm a new council member, but I want to be sure that the attendance of conferences like these, whether we have national supporters or more statewide, that they are supportive and there's an opportunity to learn and grow, and I would love to take advantage of this if it pleases the council.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Martinez?
Thank you. Normally, I'm interested in going, but this year it doesn't work with my work schedule, so I'm excited that two of us are going to hopefully go, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it, Councilmember Winks, being that it's going to be your first time. Yep. You're going to love it, and I'm fully supportive of approving these two council members to attend CML.
Okay, thank you. Is there any cost to this if Councilmember Olson finds she can't go, but if she knows by Wednesday, that's still probably early enough that.
Yes, Mayor, you're correct. There wouldn't be any cost. Currently, we have hotel rooms reserved for 2. We had more. We got a block, but then we released them after we heard other members weren't going to attend. And since there's a housing crunch always in Vail, people are more than willing to take your room, and it'd be no cost to us.
That's great. Thank you. I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve 13A, council travel to CML.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Martinez and seconded that to approve the council travel to Colorado Municipal League Conference. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 6 ayes.
Thank you. City Attorney's report. Oh.
Yeah, two other quick items.
Sorry,
Mayor.
I apologize.
Yeah, just a reminder, I'm helping my parents move, so I have to go home and pack them up in Ohio, so I'll be out starting tomorrow about noon. Mr. Wolf is going to be running the show until Saturday night when I return. Okay. So I appreciate that, Mark. And the other item is just really quick. Our wastewater treatment plant director, John Kuzman, has resigned. I'm working with Human Resources right now to advertise for that vacancy. We hope to get that posted middle of this week. It'll run for 3 weeks. We're looking for a visionary leader to continue the visionary leadership that Mr. Kuzman provided to the city and to the plant.
Thank you. Now, City Attorney's report.
Thank you. I wanted to let everyone know I'll be out of the office Wednesday through Friday. I will be attending my daughter's college graduation out of state.
Congratulations. Okay, seeing nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.